if you look at the graphical manner of this of the scenario what we discussed so far, you can see it in your page number 314 in your textbook. Right now, this is the scenario. What is the scenario? What we discussed so far. Trader A is there. He required $100 million and he need to take it for a fixed rate. And trader B is there. He also need $100 million and he preferred to take it as a flexible rate. But looking at the current interest rate in the market, they identify that counter A or trader A can borrow at a low flexible rate and trader B can borrow it at a low fixed interest rate. Right? He can borrow it at a fixed interest rate. Okay. So then trader A borrowed $100 million from the flexible rate. Right? From the flexible rate. That is why it says here LIBOR plus 0.5 rate, and trader B take his loan at a fixed rate at a 7%. Right? Those are the 100 million loan they are taking. This is the investment amount. Okay. So this investment amount, trader A deposit to the bank. Right? Trader A deposit to the bank. Right? Now this is going to be deposit to the bank. Okay. And the trader A agreement is you need to pay me LIBOR rate for my investment. You need to pay me LIBOR rate for my investment, and I will pay 7.35% of investment for a interest rate for my 100 million worth payment. Actually, sorry, this amount is not going to deposit to the bank, right? This amount is not going to deposit to the bank. So agreement is based on the principal amount. Trader A will pay 7.35% of interest income to the bank, right? And bank will pay LIBOR rate to trader A, right? This, I'm really sorry, this investment is not deposit anywhere. This is coming with the trader A. Make a trader A type amount loan amount. So for a 5 years time period, A will pay 7.35% interest amount based on his $100 million value. يعني ඩොලර් ලක්ෂයකට 7.35 ගානේ හැම අවුරුද්දෙම මෙයා බැංක් එකකට ගෙවනවා. For a $100 million, right? That means for $100 million into 7.35%. That is a trader A payment, A interest payment to bank. That is interest payment to bank, right? As a return for this transaction, bank will pay 100 million into LIBOR rate for 6 months, right? LIBOR rate for 6 months, maybe OR, sorry, LIBOR rate. That is what bank do for trader A, right? That is what bank do for trader A. Now look at the trader B situation, right? That is trader B. What trader B doing is, right, where he paid interest payment to bank. What is his payment? That is 100 million into LIBOR plus, sorry, 100 million into LIBOR rate. 100 million into LIBOR rate. LIBOR rate. That is the payment made by the trader A, trader B to bank. For this transaction, bank will pay to trader B, that is $100 million into 7.25% interest rate. This is happening in the trader B aspect. Right? Now, because of this 100 million borrowing amount, trader A and bank make agreement. I will pay 7.35% of interest payment to you for this borrowing, and as a result, you will pay me investment amount into LIBOR rate as an interest payment. Trader B, for his 100 million worth investment or borrowing, he will pay the bank flexible interest rate. As a return, the bank will pay him fixed interest rate. So this is happening as a swap. Right? Now you might have an issue. Why this bank enter into this particular transaction? Because he doesn't receive anything, right? He doesn't have any security for this transaction, right? So why they are entering? Now look at this. Because of the SAP agreement, bank received 7.35% from trader A. Bank received 7.35% from trader A. And for that payment, he only pay this LIBOR rate, 6-month LIBOR rate. Right? He pay 6-month LIBOR rate. Now look at the other way around. For that transaction, bank will receive LIBOR rate from trader B. And in return, the bank will pay 7.25% interest rate for trader B, to trader B. Look at the difference. Look at the difference. Difference indicate that 0.1% gain bank will gain from this sub transaction. Means sub transaction එක හින්දා බැංකුවට දශම එකක profit එකක් එනවා. Now that profit is accounting with 100 million value. Out of 100 million value, how much is received per year? 100 million value into 0.1%. Right? So he received $10,000 value for this transaction. That means bank received $10,000 as a net profit for this sub transaction. You see? So then what are the benefit for trader A? Trader A can borrow his fixed rating amount at a rate of 7.8%. At a rate of 7.8%. But if we actually go for a market rate, so market interest rate is how much? That is 8.5% or 8% or something. I think 8.5%, no? Yes, 8.5%. Okay. Let's check this. Yes, 8.5%. Trader A can take the fixed rate at 8.5%. And here, trader B also gained the benefit. His interest rate is lesser than now LIBOR rate minus 0.25%. His gain with LIBOR rate with. Now for a trader B, he actually prefers a flexible rate, but he going for a flexible rate at that time. That is a LIBOR rate. But now at the end of the swap transaction, he take the loan at a LIBOR rate minus 0.25%. So both parties are taking advantage. right? Bank will earn 0.1% profit, net profit. And here, trader A will take loan at a lowest fixed rate rather than going for a market interest rate. And trader B also taking its loan lower than market flexible rate. You see, so this is what we call interest rate swap. All are getting benefit. Okay, so here what we see is none of them are transferring the maturity. This $100 million, those are not transferring anymore, anywhere, right? That is why I also make mistake. I initially said that this is going to deposit to the bank. No, that is not happening, right? So that value is coming for trader A. That is his loan requirement. He keep it, but that payment going for a 5 years time period, right? So first year, trader A will pay 7.35% of interest payment out of this $100 million loan, and he received at that time LIBOR rate from the bank. At that time, LIBOR rate from the bank, right? As a result of that, actual payment here going for an interest payment is 7.85%, because additionally this 0.5% he need to pay for his interest for his loan, because he obtained the loan at LIBOR plus 0.5%. Okay, so then trader B at the end of each financial year, he has to pay interest payment for a rate of LIBOR rate, and he will receive the benefit from the bank 7.25%. Since he obtained the loan at a 7% of interest payment, fixed interest payment, now he has additional income from 0.25, right? That is his additional income received from this transaction. Because of that, he only obtained LIBOR rate minus 0.25% of the borrowing cost, right? So finally, bank receives 7.35% from the party A, and also LIBOR rate from party B, and bank pay 7.25% to party B, as well as bank pay LIBOR rate to party A. By combining with the gaining and payment and receiving amount, bank will end up with 0.1% of interest payment or net profit for the value of $100 million loan, or 100 million principal amount. So each year bank will receive $10,000 profit, right? Even without transferring any cash, right? That means even transferring this principal amount. The bank ko metan yata kalla nahe million, right? Even for transferring 100 million loan. Okay, so every party gain profit. You see the situation, what's happening in the swap interest rate swap transaction. Now here you need to remember very precisely, principal amount is not transferring, only transferring is the interest payment. Some party transferring his interest payment to fixed to floating, and another party transferring his interest to floating to fixed. Finally, both parties are able to obtain the loan facilities lower than their desired market rates. So that is what we simply call swap transaction. Interest rate swap transaction. Right. Now let's look at the second type of swap transaction. That is what we identified as currency swap. What do you mean by the currency swap here? Now, interest rate swap, what we see is that people are transferring their interest amount from fixed to floating rate. But here we don't see that currencies are transferring. That means dollar to pound or pound to dollar. Those are not happening. Right? Here, only in the interest rate swap we discussed so far is transferring fixed interest rate to floating interest rate. But in the currency swap, now we are discussing how these currencies are transferring for their long-term investments. So currency swap is an exchange of debt service obligation denominated in one currency to the other currency. Okay. Now here we are transferring currency. Right? That means including interest, we are transferring currencies. Okay. Now for an example, look at this. Trader A, which has borrowed Japanese yen at a fixed interest rate, can transfer its yen debt to dollar liability by exchanging cash flows with trader B. So each payment day, trader A will pay fixed interest rate in dollar and he receives a fixed rate in yen. Right. So what is happening here? Trader A, he borrowed Japan yen. Right. So he's borrowing amount from Japanese yen denominator at a fixed interest rate. Now what he are doing is he pay his interest rate in dollar and he received investment payment in yen. Right. So that is happening in a currency swap. We will see in the example. Okay. Now, if I brief what is happening here in the currency swap. Okay. Now trader A, what he actually do in trader A is actually do is what? He borrow yen, right? He borrow yen at fixed rate. Right? He borrow yen at fixed rate. When he went into the sub transaction, what is finally happening? At sub transaction, what is finally happening? Yeah, what is finally happening? Trade A will pay a fixed rate in dollar. Now trade A pays interest in US dollar and he received interest, and A receives interest in yen. Right? Now, if you are borrowing yen denominated in loan, you have to pay interest in yen, no? That is the situation. But when we are doing the swap transaction, finally what you are paying as interest is in terms of dollar. But you receive some amount in terms of yen. Okay. So this is what we normally call currency swaps. Right? So at each payment day, trader A will pay fixed interest rate in dollar and he receives a fixed rate in yen. The counterparties also exchange the principal amount at the start and end of the swap agreement. Right? So trader A borrow yen and transfer it to the bank. Right? He transferred it to the bank. For his amount, he received the payment equal to the dollar. Right? So he borrow at yen at fixed rate and transferring that yen into the bank. So bank will pay him a dollar denominator's investment. Then for the swap transaction, trader A pays interest in dollar amount, but he receives interest in yen amount. Right? So that difference between this dollar payment and yen received, we can calculate the swap transaction profit or loss. Okay, so that is happening. Now, we will discuss it in detail in next example, but look at this. The situation is in the currency swap is we are transferring the financial denominator for one currency to another currency. Okay, that is a simple scenario for currency swap. Right, now look at this example. Okay, now look at this example. There is a trader D who is looking to borrow in euro, right? In the meanwhile, there is a trader E. He is seeking to buy dollar, right? There are two parties, trader D and trader E. Trader D wish to have euro borrowings or euro loan in terms of euro. And trader D looking for taking loans in terms of dollar. Okay, so both parties need, assuming that it is $200 million worth of loan amount, that is for a 10 years time period. Right? Now, what trader D has is, he had dollar denominated bonds or something. So he issued it. So he can issue it. Right? As also D might have a euro denominated bonds, that also he can issue. Similarly, trader D also have a dollar denominated bond, that is another interest rate, and as well as euro denominated bond, there is another interest rate. Right? Let's look at the scenario very clearly. Right? I will show you the scenario here. Right? Okay. Now, here is a trader D. Now, what trader D need? What trader D need is, he need euro. He need euro loan. Euro amount of loan. Right? He need euro amount of loan. Right? And he can issue euro bond at what rate? We can issue euro denominated bond or coupon rate at 8.25%. He also can issue dollar bond or dollar denominated bond at what rate? At 7.5 rate. Okay. Now what you can see, if he actual requirement is euro, but if you are taking euro loan, he has to pay 8.25% of interest rate compared to the dollar denominated bond issue. So trader D is much will take the profitable decision if we issue dollar denominated bond, right? Because interest rate between dollar denominated bond and euro denominated bond, euro denominated bonds are higher than dollar denominated bonds. So it is better for trader D to issue dollar denominated bond, right? But what actual requirement for trader D? Actual requirement is euro denominated loan, right? So trader D will get benefit, right? Trader D can take loan at dollar denomination or at dollar amount at the rate of 7.5 interest rate. He can rate, right? 7.5 interest rate. Okay. Now look at the other way around. Trader E. Okay. What trader E required? He need dollar amount of loan. Dollar loan, right? I'm just saying dollar loan, right? Or dollar denominated loan. That trader D also can issue euro bond, euro bond at, he can issue euro bond at 8.1%, and also can issue dollar bond at 7.7 issue. Right? Dollar bond at 7.7 issue. Here it is bond. Okay. So what is the situation then? Am I correctly saying? Yes. Equivalent rate for trader E at dollar bond for 7.7% and trader euro bond is 8.1%. Okay. Now that is a thing. Now what is the issue? Now it is clear that the best way for them to borrow in other currency is to issue debt in their own currency and then sub the procedure and future debt service payment. So what is the now situation? Now trader D looking for euro loan. But if he issue euro bond, he has to pay 8.25% of interest rate. Right? And trader E required dollar loan. That means he want to invest into US market. That is what it says. He want to invest into the US market. When he issue his dollar loan or dollar bond, he has to pay 7.77% interest rate. Right? If he issue the euro bond, he has to pay 8.1% of interest rate. Okay. Now, if trader D issue euro bond, in order to cover his loan, he has to pay higher amount. Okay. And trader D, I believe this rates are a little bit different. Let me check it again. Trader D will float the bond issue of 1.5. Trader E will issue on event of debt. Trader E would float the bond. Right. So, no, there is no issue. So I thought that the interest rates are getting changed. No. Now the thing is, now trader D can issue the dollar amount at the rate of 7.5 interest rate compared to his euro amount, as well as the trader E also can issue the dollar amount or dollar pound at the 7.7 interest rate. But you can see that if trader D can make a transaction with the trader D, he can obtain the dollar amount loan at a 7.5% instead of going for a 7.7%. Right? So this is what happening in a swap transaction. Now, normally, if you are looking at this two scenario, you couldn't see that, right? If I see only trader D isolately and trader E isolately, we couldn't see it. But if you are looking at the two scenario together, now trader D can issue loan amount at a 7.5 low interest rate. Right? But the thing is, trader D doesn't need dollar. He needs euro. Okay. And other thing is, trader E, he needs dollar loan, as well as when compared to his interest rate, he can issue dollar bonds because it given 7.7% interest rate compared to the 8.1% interest rate in euro. But trader E also gain more benefit if he can collaborate with trader D, because that interest rate is 7.5. That interest rate is 7.5. So then we look at what both parties can do. Then look at what those parties can do. Now, assuming that it is a spot rate is per dollar euro 1.1. Now, the requirement of both parties is $200 million. Right? Both parties is, I think, it is $200 million. As some says, no? Yes, 200 million, both parties equal 200 million value. Right? So then what they can do? Trader E would issue pound 220 million. Now trader E can issue pound 220 million because it's equivalent to $2 million at the rate of 8.5%, 8.1%. And trader B can issue $200 million bonds at a 7.5%. Okay, at a 7.5%. Now you can see the scenario here. Okay. Now, trader D can be worth to issue a dollar denominator at a 7.5%. That is why it is indicated here. Now, trader D issue 200 million worth of bonds at a 7.5%. At the meantime, trader E also issues euro 220 million in the rate of 8.1. Now, you might be questioning that. Now, trader E already need dollar denominated investment. As well as the trader E can obtain loan at a 7.7% in dollar amount or in a dollar denominators. Then why he borrowing or why he lending 8.1% interest rate amount of euro denominators instead of going for 7.7 dollar denominators? දැන් ඔයගොල්ලන් ප්‍රශ්නයක් එන්න පුළුවන්. trader E ට එහෙම නැත්නම් E කියන trader ට පුළුවන් නම් එයාගේ dollar denominators requirement එක 7.7% interest rate එකකට ගන්න. Why he going for 8.1%? Now look at, this is what happening in the swaps, right? This is what happening in the swaps. Now, trader D borrow $200 million at 7.5. Okay. Now trader D borrow or issue bond, sorry, not borrow, issue bond, $200 million worth at 7.5%, because that is the cheapest value. But he need euro. And meanwhile, trader E issues bond euro 220 million at 8.1%. At 8.1%. Why? Why trader E issues bond at 8.1% instead of issuing a bond at 7.7% with the dollar denominators? Now its requirement also fulfilling, because trader E required dollar denominated investment, trader D required euro denominated investment. But in here, so trader E requirement fulfilling, but D requirement is not fulfilling. So that is not happening in the swap. Swap means both parties requirements, investment requirements are fulfilling at a low borrowing or investment cost. Now, what is the benefit of trader E here? Now, the both parties coming into the swap agreement. So, what is the swap agreement? Trader D will ended up with 220 million euro debt. That means they are transferring their bond transaction. Now, trader D, after SAP, right? After SAP, trader D will, receive euro 220 million. He received 220 million at what rate? He received 220 million at what rate? He received it at 8.1%. Right? Now, meanwhile, trader E receives $200 million at what rate? At 7.5%. Right? If trader E take the loan from his own market, or he issues bond in dollar denominators, he has to pay 7.7% interest rate. Right? 7.7% interest rate. Okay. Therefore, the net result in this SAP enables trader D to borrow fixed rate of euro indirectly. Now, they are not directly buying euro from the market. They are indirectly buying euro from each other. Because trader D originally issues bond worth of $200 million at a rate of 7.5. And trader E originally issued bond worth of euro 220 million at a rate of 8.1%. But as a result of the swap agreement, trader D able to receive euro 220 million at the rate of 8.1% instead of going, so at that time the market rate, what is that? The market rate, it is 8.25%. But in here, the market rate, that is 7.7%. So what is the benefit then? What is the benefit? So trader D benefit equal how much? 8.25% minus 8.1%, that is 0.15% benefit he received indirectly while doing this currency swap transaction, and trader E received the benefit of how much? Benefit equal 0.2%. You see? So initially you imagine, you assuming that, you consider that on what basis trader E going for a issuing euro at highest interest rate rather than going for issue dollar bond at a 7.7 interest rate, 7.7 interest rate. Now you see, right? So as a result of this swap transaction, trader E can borrow dollar at 7.5% and he will be able to save 0.2% of interest gain or direct cost saving. Now you see why people are going with this currency swap. Okay, so trader D actually issued dollar denominated bonds, but finally he received euro amount. What is his requirement? Right? Then trader E actually issues euro denominated bond, but actually what he received, that is dollar denominated things. Now assuming this case, right? Now we think something like this. Now forget about the swap, right? Forget about the swap, and you will see in a swap, right? Now trader D. Right? What is his requirement? He need euro. He need euro. Right? And he issued euro, sorry, he issued dollar, value of dollar 200 million. He issued dollar 200 million. Right? He issued, sorry, not dollar. Now, since it's interest rate, I forget the interest rates. What are the interest rates? For dollar, it is 7.5 and wait. Yes. For dollar, it is 7.5 and for euro, it is 8.5. Right? Now he finally received this 7.5 million things now. Right. Let's see something like that. Now trader D, he actually needs euro. Right? He needs euro. Right? So he see that its dollar denominators are lower, right? He see that dollar denominators are lower, so he issued dollar 200 bonds at rate is 7.5%. He issued dollar 200 bonds at rate is 7.5%. Right? But actually what is required is euro. Now what he do is he can transfer or he can convert that dollar 200 to euro at the interest rate of what we call, for spot rate is euro 1.1 per dollar. That is interest rate. Euro 1.1 per dollar. Okay. That is a spot rate. Euro 1.1 per dollar. Right. Now he has euro 220 million. And now he has euro 220 million. Now, when the time is moving on and the things are going on, right? And after the 10 years, he want to pay his loan in terms of dollar, right? After 10 years, now he want to pay his loan in terms of dollar, right? Then again, he need to convert its euro investment or euro income to the dollar. He need to convert again that euro income. Now after 10 years, trader D needs to convert euro amount into dollar to set of dollar denominated bonds. Isn't it? Now bonds now what he need to do? Then he have to convert again euro into dollar. Right? So do we know exactly what will happen in 10 years after from today? No, maybe 10 years exchange rates might be severely fluctuated. So euro might be depreciate or pound dollar might be appreciate. There will be so many things are happening. Then we don't know exactly how much of dollar we need to have in order to how much of euro we need to have in order to convert that amount into dollar. So exchange rate fluctuations are there. But instead of this scenario, now trader D is doing what? What trader D is doing? He issued bond denominators, but he doesn't need to convert it to euro to dollar, dollar to euro. Why? Because of the step transaction, trader D issued 200 million worth of US dollar bonds, 200 million worth of US dollar bonds, and he ended up with euro 220 million worth of bond at the same interest rate. So there is no transferring of money from euro to dollar, dollar to euro when you are going for a currency swap transaction. So the exchange rate fluctuation is automatically eliminated when you are moving to the currency swap transaction. Okay, and also you are obtaining loan at a low interest rate than the market interest rate. So this is happening in currency swap transaction. Okay, so again there is another term called interest rate currency swap. That is what happening in here. This is a combination of both currency swap and interest rate swap. Now, under the interest rate swap, what we discussed so far is the interest rates are transferring to fixed to floating. And currency swap, what we discuss is the foreign denominated investment is transferring to another foreign denominated investment, like dollar bonds to euro bonds. Now, if you are moving to the interest rate currency swap transaction, you will transferring your fixed interest rate to floating interest rate, as well as you are transferring your currency payment, the payment in terms of one currency to another currency. Likewise, if you are taking loan from dollar at a fixed interest rate, now because of this interest rate swap transaction, if interest rate currency swap transaction, you pay pound interest payment at a rate of floating interest rate. Right? This swap is designed to convert liability in one currency with stipulated type of interest payment into another denominator currency. Now, for an example, if I take it like this, right? Now you borrow dollar, we say 200 million at fixed rate. At fixed rate, right? After SEPs, right? After SEP transaction, after SEP, that means after interest rate currency SEP. Interest rate currency SEP, what you are doing is you pay flexible interest amount in euro. You are paying flexible interest amount in terms of euro, not in terms of dollar. Right? You are taking loan for dollar with the fixed rate, but you are paying interest with the flexible rate by using euro. So that is happening in current interest rate currency swap transactions. Okay. So interest rate currency swap converting fixed rate liability into the currency dollar into floating interest rate liability in the second currency. Right? Fixed dollar amount you are transferring to flexible euro amount. Right? So those things are happening in the swap transaction. Now you understand very clearly all parties are getting benefit because of the swap. Even the trader A, trader D receive benefit and trader E receive benefit, and the middle party, the bank, also receive benefit. Right? So I believe that you are understanding why swap is there. Okay. And other thing we call the credit default swap, right? This is another type of derivative, credit default swap. Here we are not transferring interest payment to float into flexible or currency from one currency to another currency. Here what we are doing is this derivative instrument designed to transfer in the credit exposure, that is credit risk, to the third party. Right? We are transferring our risk to the third party. Like for an example, insurance also, you know, when the insurance amount is very large, insurance company insured that amount in another insurance company. Right? So that is happening in the swap transaction also. The seller of the contract assuming that the credit risk on the debit in exchange for a periodical protection fee from the buyer similar to an insurance premium. And it's obliged to pay only if the negative credit events occur. Right? Now, for an example, if the exchange rates are changing, when the interest rates are highly fluctuating, one party may be getting disadvantages. So that party, while forecasting that sort of thing, they are going for a CDS agreement. They are going for a credit default agreement, credit default swap agreement. So there is another party who are ready to pay for this sort of risk happening, right? So third party will receive commission for their credit risk taking function, right? So this is happening in insurance as well as SAP also. This kind of things are happening. Okay. Now let's look at why people are going for an economic, got a currency swap, interest rate swap, or interest rate currency swap. Okay. So it provides long-term financing in foreign currency. Right? Now we understand this thing, right? So there is no currency fluctuation. We fix the amount, right? There is no interest rate fluctuation. We fix the amount. So many foreign countries, long-term capital and forward foreign exchange markets are notably absent or not well developed because sometimes forward market transactions are not happening very properly, right? And there is no proper mechanism for long-term capital. Therefore, SAP is the only vehicle that provides liquidity for this market. Now you see how our long-term liabilities are getting fulfilled at a fixed interest rate or at a fixed exchange rate. Okay, here it says SAP also allow firms that are parties to be contract at a lower their cost of foreign exchange risk management by arbitraging their relative access to different currency market. Okay, now let's give you example. The US corporation may want to secure fixed rate fundings in euro in order to reduce its euro exposure. Now, let's look at this example a little bit more.